Hello and welcome to this episode of Rail Story Revisited, where we take another look at a locomotive we have studied before. This week it's the turn of Richard Trevithick. The joy of being a historian is that history is not fixed, it's fluid, it's dynamic. Yes, dates and events are set in stone, but how we understand the past and those events are constantly changing in the light of new evidence and new ways of interpreting that evidence. It's all a bit timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. It means, as an historian, you need to have an open mind to be ready to embrace change and accept that what was once taken as quote-unquote fact may in fact be wrong, and indeed you may be wrong too. So when Andy Guy et al. Presented their 29 paper on the Trevithick Penydarren engine, one may have been mistaken for thinking that after this exhaustive piece of research by some of the leading railway historians in Britain, there can't be anything new to add. Surely? Well, yes there is. In 2020, Dr. Michael Lewis published his book on the Sir Howie tramway and its neighbours, and he revealed new research about the Trevithick locomotives and indeed the Penydarren engine. Let's start with the well-known tram engine drawing of December 1803. It was found in South Wales in the 1860s and has a very strong Welsh provenance. It was made by John Llewellyn, a mining agent who before 1805 was working at the Cyfarthfa ironworks near Merthyr Tydfil. By 1807, however, he was working at the Rhymney ironworks. Indeed, Llewellyn was a personal friend of Richard Trevithick. Thus, it is unlikely it depicts a locomotive built in England. When first discovered, it was thought by Francis Trevithick and others to represent the Penydarren locomotive of 1804. But in the 1950s, E.A. Forward of the Science Museum in London noted that the locomotive is in fact built to a gauge of 3 feet 1 1/4 inches, which meant it couldn't possibly have been intended for Penydarren. Instead, he postulated that it was the carriage for the railroads mentioned in a letter by Richard Trevithick in August 1802 at the Coalbrookdale Iron Works. The problem with this is that soon after, the prickly Trevithick fell out with the owners of Coalbrookdale. And perhaps more importantly is the fact that Coalbrookdale didn't have a plateway of the right gauge upon which to run this tram engine locomotive. Therefore, given that Coalbrookdale lacked a plateway of a suitable gauge, there was no need for a locomotive to be built for a tramway which didn't exist. However, and this is where Llewellyn comes back into the picture, the Rhymney Ironworks did have a plateway of the correct gauge. So too the Tredegar Ironworks, and both are in Wales. The likelihood is, given that Trevithick built the Penydarren locomotive for Samuel Humphrey, who also owned the Tredegar Ironworks, it is that the 1803 tram engine was built, or proposed for Humphrey, for use at the Tredegar Ironworks, and that there was no 3 foot 1 1/4 inch gauge locomotive at Coalbrookdale. And this is despite a working replica having been constructed of the tram engine at Coalbrookdale Museum purporting to show it. So what about the Penydarren locomotive itself? There are no known depictions of the locomotive, but Guy et al. Did reconstruct the locomotive from known dimensions and Trevithick practice. However, following the publication of Dr. Lewis's book, we can add to the picture. The Penydarren locomotive is usually reconstructed having a simple U-shaped return flue boiler, so that the chimney and firebox were at the same end and the single cylinder was at the opposite. However, this new research shows that the Penydarren locomotive possessed what was then termed a breeches flue boiler, so that the main boiler flue branched into 2 smaller return flues. So in effect, there were 3 tubes in the boiler, the main flue and the 2 smaller return flues, which united to form a single chimney outside the boiler. And this boiler was identical to that which Trevithick had used on his London steam carriage. It was an efficient steam generator thanks to its large heating service, and indeed Francis Trevithick stated that it was his father who had invented the multi-tubular boiler, whilst the Penydarren locomotive may not have had as many flues as the rocket did. Its breeches flue boiler was far in advance of the single flue boiler of Stephenson or the return flue of Headley or Hackworth. It was, however, far more complicated and more expensive to make. The breeches flue for the Penydarren locomotive was built by a Welsh craftsman, Richard Brown, who is also credited with his brother William in doing much of the smith work on the Penydarren locomotive. Whilst designed by a Cornishman, the Penydarren locomotive was certainly a product of Welsh industry, skill and ingenuity. So that's been a quick revisit of the work of Richard Trevithick. Certainly history is not static, and we're finding out new information about early railways, even something as well known as the Penydarren locomotive, where many leading historians and academics continue to shed light on events from over 2 centuries ago. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please leave a comment below and show your appreciation by liking, sharing and subscribing. If you feel able, you can also support this channel on Patreon for as little as the cost of a takeout cup of coffee once per month. And I look forward to seeing you all next time on Rail Story.